All right, well, I'll get started. I know we're on a tight schedule here today. My name's Emilia. I'm with Qordoba. I recently joined them as their Vice President of Customer Success. And for those of you that don't know what Qordoba does, is it's a localization platform. So some of the most innovative companies in the world are quickly growing and penetrating new markets, and they're realizing that the user experience isn't enough when you just think about design. So making sure that the content is in the local language is really important, and Qordoba centralizes all the languages so developers, product managers, marketers can come together and make sure that content has true meaning behind the local language. So today I'm going to be talking about your champion network. If I can get this to work. Okay, great. So how many of you belong to a champion network? Surely you do. We all have our champion networks, and today I'll talk about champion networks in the same way you talk about advocacy programs. We all have advocates. It can be your dog, it can be your family. I know in San Francisco right now, they just opened a kitty cafe where you can go hang out with people who love to be with cats, and there are cats there that you can enjoy while you're having tea. So we all have champion networks, and I'll be talking about advocacy networks in the same way I talk about my network. This is my family, and who I go to when I need some extra love and advocacy. So moving on the agenda. So advocacy matters to your customer experience. I think it's really growing, and hence the birth of customer engagement in customer success. And how do you even identify champions? It's not just about customers. It goes beyond the customer to identify champions. And then we'll talk about strategies for mobilizing this champion network that you're going to build. And then I'll leave you with some key takeaways. But before I get started, I just want to get an idea of how many people here work for companies that have an advocacy program already built. Okay, how many of you have been tasked with building an advocacy program? Wow, okay, this is exciting. So let's get started with why it matters. When you think about how important the rise of social media, how important people are when they come to giving recommendations, and I'll talk about some of the platforms later. It's a big stat, and this is just for B2B companies. They do your back channel references. Before they even get to your website, they've asked someone what they think about your product. And for B2C platforms, this stat's even slightly higher. It's 92% of B2C customers actually go to their friends and family. So they'll check with their family what they think about a product. Should I buy one product or the other, for example, before they purchase it? Next, 78% of buyers have used a case study. Well, how do you build a case study if you don't have a champion network? People who really care about your product and are willing to spend time with you to write that 2-page case study. And a case study is different than an ebook. An ebook is sometimes long. With the rise of social media, how many of you have recently even read an ebook? Exactly, right? So case studies are quick, they're to the point, 1 or 2 pages max, and then they typically have a big brand, or if you're segmenting your customers, you probably have different case studies for different personas and different segments of your brand. The other big stat here is people are also using videos instead of case studies. So if a customer feels comfortable in front of a camera, you'll want to offer that as an option as well. And so hence why you need a champion network. It's the fastest way to grow your brand. My experience, I'll just briefly share. I spent 3 years at WalkMe most recently, where I built an advocacy program globally. And if you go to walkme.com and you look at customer stories, you'll see a variety of videos and case studies. You'll never see my name there. I'm behind the scenes. But those videos and case studies are what really help build our referral network and program. So they really help the brand grow. And that's why Champion Network is so important. You can't just think about it, what's in it for me? What's in it for the customer? Why would they even join your customer advocacy program? So I found some stats. The number one reason we're all here today, let's admit it, of course the content's great, but we want to meet other people who are interested in what we're most passionate about, and that's customer success and customer experience. We want to network with those people. Everyone's waiting for 5 o'clock to have drinks with people they can learn from and connect with. So another reason is they like being advocates, and I'll dive into that in a moment. But of course, they're going to join your advocacy program to learn from their peers and learn from the experts behind the brand. And last but not least, it's fun, right? We're having fun here. We're not only learning, but we're having fun with people that are passionate about what we're passionate about. Other reasons that are important is they can come to one central hub where they can learn everything. So if I want to go to a knowledge base, or I want to go to the support center, I want to ask other customers how they're using the product in a way I'm thinking about using, it's one central place where I can go. The other reasons are you want to feel special. If I contribute an answer first and then I get some badge because I've answered all these questions, you kind of feel good. I somehow posted a photo because I was at a winery and it got a ton of likes and views on Google. So then Google asked me to become part of their guide program, and suddenly they're sending me all this stuff because I just happen to write reviews and like writing them and putting pictures when I have a few minutes. So I feel now suddenly special. Let's admit it, you don't have to raise your hand because you might be sitting next to your boss, but people come to advocacy groups or champion network places because they might be looking for another job. And often when I'm working with customers, they'll say to me, Emilia, do you know someone who's certified in Qordoba? Or WalkMe, I need to hire someone right away who knows what they're doing to implement this program. So I can quickly go on a community and say, hey, someone's looking for a certified user of our product. Direct message me if you're interested in new opportunities. So it can be a discreet way to look for new roles as well. And then last but not least, we're all here to grow, right? And educate ourselves and see what else we can do with what we're learning. Okay, maybe it's working. So who do you put in your advocacy program? It doesn't start with the customer. You need to start it with your executives. And that means getting buy-in from the people who are going to sign off on the budget and having a really strong person to lead that group, your advocacy group, someone with a big personality who's not afraid to ask questions and asks of customers to do things for your brand. So that's really important when you're starting an advocacy program. The other important aspect is you have to have your employees in it. This is an employee group that I belonged to when I was at WalkMe, and you can segment your customers and invite them to the community. So you want to pitch an advocacy network to your employees first. How will your employees make that advocacy network amazing? Maybe you have all the product team take turns in a A/B testing group that you set up so that they can put together designs and share with top brands or a certain segment of your brand an idea and see which one they like the best. So you need to have employees as part of your advocacy program. I can guarantee you setting something like this up not only takes a long time to do well, but you can't possibly be on it on your own and answering all the questions. The community I set up at WalkMe, on the first day there were over 130 interactions between customers. How can one person possibly be managing them all? So you need to think about your employees. How are you going to incentivize them? And how are you going to get them to be part of the community so they can be helping you grow it as well? All right, so your buyers, your customers, they are willing to be part of this group. They're excited. I just said on day one, there were over 130 interactions between customers on the network. And most customers are willing to say something positive or write about you if you ask them and they're having a good experience. Now, some customers, of course, aren't allowed. Some of the biggest brands out there, they aren't allowed, but I have some ideas for you on how to get them to write something about you anyway, so you can expand your network. And I would actually start with, I know a lot of people have been talking about a net promoter score. Wootrick is here, Satmetrics. There are many different ways to do an NPS score with your customers and identify your top promoters. And that's who you can really start your champion network with. I would actually even recommend looking at going back if you are already doing NPS scoring or sending surveys after support. Anyone who's giving you a 10 out of 10 and had an amazing experience, invite them first. Tell them in advance, we're setting up a community, we have some ideas, we'd love your feedback, and then of course you want to reward them and thank them before you grow your advocacy program to all of your customers. All right, so when you're starting, you may want to start small. I did start by putting together an onboarding survey for customers and trying to get the largest customer brands in there first. And then I did NPS, and I would say keep it short. Don't overwhelm your customers with long surveys. I know hospitals especially love to send out 27-page surveys. I tweeted to one and asked, why do you send these long surveys? Why don't you send me something online? They said it's by regulation. We have to send everything by paper. I said, okay, but I'm never answering this survey. So keep it short. That's my advice, especially as people's attention spans go down. And this is really an easy way to do it in your CRM. You can set up like a template that's automated 1 week, for example, after they go live, or yearly, and then it all goes back into your CRM. It's a simple, inexpensive way. If you don't have a budget, for example, say, to go buy a platform, although I know there's a huge range of prices for survey platforms like Wootrix, SurveyMonkey, Medallia. There's so many different ones that you can look at. All right, so how do you identify? Here's another way for any of you who are using Tatango or thinking about using Tatango. Everything you need is in here. You can put together filters. So for this example, they're onboarding and adopting established, their health rank is good, and an NPS score of at least 9. So I'm quickly able to see what kind of interactions they're having in the platform and what the NPS score is. All right, so how do we even mobilize our champion network? Well, swag and giveaways really work. This is one of the very first things I put together is a welcome box and telling our customer welcome aboard. And I made our CEO sign every single one. And I put my business card in there as well. And I said, welcome aboard. Here's some swag for you to thank you for being a customer. I hashtagged it to death so that I wanted people to put it on social media. And of course, there's an example of a customer who sent me a picture and then someone who loves their dog and put it next to the box. Other ways you can get your champion network off the ground is our social media campaigns. Ask your marketing team, do you have any extra tickets for an event that you're going to that you might give me so I can run a campaign with my customers? How many customers can we get on social media talking about our brand, and in exchange, let's give them tickets to a big event that I know they'll want to go to. So we actually did this for an event in Vegas and got some great stories about how customers are using our platform. And then we reached out to them and said, would you be willing to either do a video about this or a case study? Another one is, I was a MailChimp customer. They sent me a bunch of hats, and then I got talked into posting on social media with these MailChimp hats that they were giving away. Events. Everyone loves events. This is an event we hosted. You can see there's a lineup out the door. We blasted, obviously, prospects as well as customers, but we gave access to our customers first, so they felt really special. Other events that are really useful and maybe not as labor intensive is bringing customers together for a lunch and learn. Get your top advocates on a panel, ask them if you can record it. There's instant content you can put on your website afterward and get customers talking to one another. This is really a great way to even start a champion network. I did this with a roadshow series where I did in New York and Atlanta, San Francisco, Seattle, where we had big concentrations of customers. And then from there, I was able to not only finally meet some of my customers, but then I could build a relationship with them, ask them to speak at future events, and ask them to contribute to our online community. Other ways online is to gamify it. There are many platforms that you can gamify the experience while promoting your platform. This happens to be Crowdvocate. There's so many out there that you can look at. There's Jive and Lithium. They're the enterprise big communities, and then there are smaller ones. Crowdvocate is more of like a HubSpot in terms of pricing. But you can see here, you can set up challenges. They can be online, they can do it on their phones. And basically, you can gamify getting a referral or a reference, because really, why are you setting up an advocacy program? You're setting it up to expand your brand and expand opportunities with your brand for your current customer base. But you also know that those customers are giving references without you even asking. On LinkedIn, I'm often sent a message saying, hey, I noticed you're connected to so-and-so. Would you rehire this person? Well, people are doing that with your brand as well. So what do communities or advocacy groups look like? Here's an example of the one I built at WalkMe. We put in different subgroups within the community. We put badges. We put words that were trending. They're all in there so people could not only search, but see what other customers are talking about. The community I use, by the way, is Vanilla. Small company, I'd never heard of them. Somehow got introduced to them and had an amazing experience. They were also the least expensive of everything I looked at. So highly recommend it. This is the Marketo Nation. I used it as an example of what I wanted my community to look like. I know they have incredible interaction, and so I wanted to share it. So some examples of how to make your customers feel special. When I started the advocacy program, quarterly newsletters. And what did I put in there? Well, the most common questions that were asked to support. A customer case study I'd just written. And then really powerful are videos. 30-second videos about why you should read this, what you're going to learn. Hated being in front of the camera, and then by the third one I said, we're getting another person at our company to do it. I don't want to do this anymore. Another one is monthly calls for everyone to call into, and actually did it 2 times a day because we had customers in Australia as well that really wanted to be part of it. But sending them an invite and saying, you know what, you're part of this special group. We're going to have a 30-minute power learning session, and ask a customer to share their story about what they did with your product. It's probably way more interesting for your customers to learn from another customer than hearing from you. But you'll probably want to have a CSM, an expert, on the call that can answer any technical questions. My current company uses Gong. I apparently didn't even know I was going through the training. They kept sending me one every week. And then one day I got nominated as a Gong ambassador, and felt special that I was suddenly part of this community. And they even sent me a certification saying I was a Jedi. So now I'm really special. So highly recommend a certification program as part of your advocacy program. It doesn't mean you have to build it. You probably, or you might have a training manager or training team, but have that certification program as part of a way to become an advocate. And then I've talked about video testimonials. They're just so powerful. At my last company, when we were looking at stats on what was most clicked on by prospects, it was the customer videos before anything else that prospects were looking at. So very powerful medium. And then online reviews. I receive incentives all the time in newsletters or groups that I belong to. The latest one said, will you please write us a review? We'll give you $25 on Amazon. That's kind of a hefty incentive to write a review. That'll probably take 10 minutes. I've seen others, a t-shirt, $10 Starbucks card. It can be like points if you're in an advocacy platform or a community, so they can go pick their own prize. Trust Radius and G2 Crowd, I see those two as the most, especially for B2B tech products, I would say those are the most prominent ones that I've been seeing lately for online requests. And then I'm being told that I'm running out of time, so luckily I'm on the last slide. How do you build your champion network? Some key takeaways I would ask you to think about is, why are you doing this? What do you want to get out of it? So what is your mission? Put together a mission statement and go to your executives and tell them why this is going to benefit the company. So who, again, you want to start with your executives and then your employees. I did training for sales, then CS, then product. I made them feel really special and train them on how they were going to contribute to the community and why it should matter to them. Scale, you want to think about technology and processes that will help you scale. When you're running all these programs at once, it can be totally overwhelming. Have, whether you use an Excel sheet or some sort of project management tool to help you measure your progress and put together your processes. And then technology, again, there's so many platforms out there. It doesn't have to be expensive. I started my advocacy program in a Google toolkit. I called it a toolkit. And everything I wanted to build, I started throwing in there until the company could see the value of an advocacy program. And what I did is then I started asking for technology. Let's automate some of this. Let's make it professional looking. All right, well, that's how I built my program, so thank you.
What questions do you have?
Hi, Emilia. I'm Lisa from Wootrick. What kind of critical mass do you need to start an advocacy program and maybe use a technology platform? How many customers?
So you know what, I would say that you can start at any time. It can start with an advisory group of customers. So at JobVite, we started before we even had 100 customers. We probably had 50, but we had 5 that really wanted to give us feedback. So every month we'd bring them in, and they were our champion network. At WalkMe, we had over 1,000 customers. But I would encourage people to start as soon as possible with an advocacy program, because again, even if you just have 5 and you're treating them well and thanking them, you can build an advocacy program with just them. It takes one case study that you can reshare to get your brand growth.
What tips do you have for customers who are unwilling to disclose that they're a customer of yours or unwilling to accept gifts? So are there any ways that we can reward them and get them to speak up without, breaking their own policy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually had that happen, and it was in their contract that they had agreed to write the case study. We even wrote it for them. We grabbed stats and shared it. I called the CEO, who I knew, And at the end, they still wouldn't let me publish it. And so I asked the VP of CS, I said, well, are you at least willing to be a reference for me on a one-to-one conversation? And she was. And so she was a reference, and I sent her some great champagne afterward and thanked her for that. So you can get people to do one-on-one. The other thing I've done is I've asked them to write an online review. So I asked, okay, you're not allowed to put your brand, but someone can click on your LinkedIn and go see exactly where you work. So ask them to write an online review and send them a gift card. Another one is they weren't allowed to accept gift cards. So then I sent them a bunch of swag because I just put value $0.
All of that today.
All right. There's one up here too. Okay.
Hi, I'm Hillary from
Hi.
Hustle.
Hi.
This was fantastic and just so many great ideas. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about if you are the primary point of contact for a client and there are other teams in the company that want to have contact with those clients, product for user research, marketing for case studies, our CEO for investor references. Can you speak a little bit as to how we don't overwhelm clients with all of those different requests for points of contact if you have perhaps the strongest relationship with them via community and how you handle that?
Yeah, sure. So we had our head of product fly here from Tel Aviv, and I set up a 2-day tour of our top customers and had him go. Of course, we sent gifts, but during the event, you can bring, I don't know, those hot cookies, whatever, make them feel really special. So you can do that, say it's part of a roadshow. We'll share with you the findings and what we end up doing. We'll share with you the roadmap in advance, so you're making them feel special. And then in terms of the community, right now, you won't even see the product community part unless you're invited to it. So you can be invited to it and say, we're doing A/B testing. We'd love your feedback. You're going to influence the future of our product. Are you willing to be part of it? And then, of course, you can send them spiffs afterwards for giving feedback. Most customers are willing to do it because, they feel really special.
Hi.
Hi.
In your perspective, do you think this function should sit in CS or in marketing, and why?
Sure. I think it depends on the company. I think the person should come from a customer success background, at least in my experience. They understand the customer better than anyone. And there's nothing worse than coming off as a seller to the customer. The minute they know you're marketing to them and it's salesy, they don't want to help you. If you come to them with empathy and show them how they're going to benefit from it as well, then you have a completely different conversation.